Five-star wide receiver Chris Henry Jr., who has been committed to Ohio State since July of 2023, was back at Oregon for another visit. Max Torres of Scoop Duck, is the flip talk starting to heat up with Chris Henry Jr.?
I don't know if it's heating up, but it's certainly staying at a nice, steady pace right now. When I last talked to Chris Henry Jr. earlier this year off of his junior day visit to Oregon, he said in no uncertain terms that as long as Brian Hartline is at Ohio State, he's pretty much rocking with the Buckeyes. But another visit out to Eugene, he gets to meet new wide receivers coach Ross Douglas. I don't know if the flip talk is heating up, but Oregon is consistently staying in the picture there as the school that you have to watch if anybody is going to be able to pull off one of the biggest flips here in the 2026 recruiting class.
Yeah, I know you can't say it. You cover Oregon and, you don't want to go too far, but I can tell you from my perspective, things are heating up between the Ducks and Chris Henry Jr. The Ducks, he wasn't the only big-time visitor on campus. Five-star linebacker Tyler Atkinson, the number one linebacker in America, was back in Eugene again as well. Now, when it comes to Atkinson's recruitment, do you think Oregon is the biggest threat to Georgia, or do you think the Ducks still got more ground to make up here?
I feel like with Atkinson, the Ducks still have a little bit more ground to make up here. I think Clemson is also another school to watch here as the biggest threat to UGA. But it was a little bit hard to get a pulse on this one because he was supposed to make it out to campus in January, but he got sick with the flu. But now he comes back out for spring practices getting heated up. You know Oregon wasn't gonna shy away in the Tyler Atkinson recruitment. And it feels like this could be one of those Dan Lanning, UGA, Georgia ties, recruitments that really helps them out here. So Oregon to Tyler Atkinson, things are heating up or at least heading in the right direction there with one of the best linebacker in the 2026 class.
All right, we're talking to Max Torres, who is on site in California at the Elite 11. So, Max, we really appreciate you jumping on here. More news from the weekend. Steve Wiltfong of On3, our beloved national analyst, put in a new prediction for wide receiver Jaylen Lott to Oregon. Now, he was on campus this weekend, but heading into the weekend, Oregon was not the favorite. It was Texas. I mean, Texas is still a major threat here, but what has Oregon done to get in this position with Lott?
I think a big part of it is this weekend's visit, getting him back out onto campus. He came out for a game last season, but you get him on campus and you have an opportunity to show off the Atkinson Stadium where they had spring practice because the facility renovations are going underway right now. So Oregon has a chance to show their plans for the facility that they're building. I think that's something that is resonating with recruits. Mm-hmm. And then you also had a chance to meet Ross Douglas that I talked about a little bit earlier. And Rashad Samples, we can't discount his role in this recruitment. We know he's pivotal in Oregon's efforts with the state of Texas. So I think leaning into those things, I would think that there were some discussions around track and field. I know that Steve had reported that Lott wants to jump at his school of choice at the college level. So I could probably be something that was in the works, maybe getting out to Hayward Field, seeing some of the track facilities as well.
Yeah.
So I think Oregon's kind of stuck in the weeds here, waiting in the weeds a little bit with Jaylen Lott, and this is definitely where you want to be for the Ducks.
Yeah, that's a major development coming out of the weekend. Now, Oregon had a big visit weekend coinciding with spring practice. You wrote a great insider piece. I think all Duck fans should go read that on Scoop Duck. But what other intel you got from this weekend?
Yeah, so I was kind of looking at this week almost, Thursday and Saturday because now the Ducks go on spring break. So there was a lot of intel even before this weekend. Obviously, Oregon is battling USC for Tomahini Tapuy, the modern-day defensive lineman that's been committed there since October. I think that it was great. He told me that they reminded him of why he committed in the first place. The proof is in the pudding, speaking about defensive line development and kind of their NFL draft prospects over there at Oregon. And then Tali, the Kahuku Hawaii linebacker, was back on campus as well. I think Oregon's in a great spot there, and they're battling USC, so the two guys to watch in kind of my neck of the woods. And then another one is Cannon Smith out of Denver, Colorado, Valor Christian. He's a 2026 offensive lineman, listed as a tackle, but Oregon actually views him as an interior guy, maybe even a center. He was on campus for the first time this weekend. It looks like he's going to be back at Oregon for an official visit. I think that development is huge for Oregon because Grant Wise, a top interior offensive line target, just committed to Clemson last week. So Malik Terry and the Ducks got to be responsive and not reactive. I think they brought Cannon Smith in because they had their eye on him for a while. So that was another huge visitor out of this weekend, Josh.
All right, Oregon fans, talk to Max and I. Are you guys buying the hype with Chris Henry Jr.? When it's all said and done, do you think he'll be a Duck or a Buckeye? Let us know.